Hey guys, last week we began looking at the book of 1 Corinthians, and we were looking at how Paul had written this letter to the people in Corinth, where he had been previously for a year and a half, and spent his time sharing the gospel with them. And he was concerned hearing afterwards how a lot of issues were facing that group of people. And last week we looked at divisions and how that came about. And this week we want to have a look at another area that of concern. And that's to do with food and eating food or concerning food that is offered to idols. So as I go in, I just want to say this. It is sometimes so sad to see us, you may have been part of this or maybe not, but following or sticking with things that have happened in the past and taking them as gospel, or following them and practicing them because they are things that were done previously by people who came before us, people we have learned from. And I think it's very important to spend time trying to understand why things are done in the way they do before we ourselves also choose to start doing those things. So here we are looking at people who are concerned about what they eat. Should they eat or should they not eat? What is good and what isn't good? And that becomes a big focus for them, that they start, moving away from focusing on Christ and start letting this create those divisions amongst themselves. And this, again, for you and I, is a question we should be asking ourselves today. What am I doing that has taken the place of Christ in my life? I have elevated this thing that is causing an issue between myself and my brothers and sisters, instead of focusing on Christ and what he stands for, and that is love. So everything we should be doing should be love-centered, but not there to confuse people, but to make them stronger in their faith and or their relationship with Christ. And right now we're going to be briefly scanning through 1 Corinthians 8 to 10. That's chapters 8 to 10. And again, as I did last week, I'm just going to pull out some of the key summary points, and hopefully you can go away and spend some time reading and talking to God to help clarify these points for you and what they mean for yourself and your spiritual journey. So chapters 8 to 10 are concerning food, as I said before, but not simply any food or preferences, but whether these people should be eating meat from animals that were sacrificed in local temples or not. And this was, again, as we looked at earlier, something that was causing divisions, or splitting those individuals between the Jewish group and the non-Jewish group of Christians. And again, Paul is looking at this and appealing to focus on the core message of the gospel rather than food becoming the driving agenda for their faith. So 8, let's have a look at chapter 8. Chapter 8, so Corinthians had questions about eating food, as I mentioned earlier. And that's specifically food that is sacrificed to idols. Now, Paul acknowledges that idols are not real gods, but not everyone understands this. As I said earlier, following things just because that is what our forefathers have done, we pick them up and start following them. I think this is what's happening here. These guys are following or are practicing this idol worship because it has been done before. And Paul says, guys, this is not real. But some of them, of course, they don't understand that. And then exercising freedom without love can be harmful to others spiritually. So when we do things like I am free to do X, but when that freedom isn't spiritually helping someone else, then we have an issue there. And this can lead to weakening other believers and causing them to stumble and fall in sin, which is against what Christ stands for. So in verse 1, it says, knowledge puffs up, but love builds up. Therefore, if food makes my brother stumble, then in verse 13, I will never eat meat. So that's just a very high level there. So I came across this commentary from Matthew Henry, and this is what he says. It's actually quite a good reading here. So I'm just going to read it through. Please bear with me. So focusing on chapter 8, verses 7 to 13, he says, eating one kind of food and abstaining from another have nothing in them to recommend a person to God. But the apostle cautions against putting a stumbling block in the way of the weak, lest they be made bold to eat what was offered to the idol, not as common food, but as a sacrifice, and thereby be guilty of idolatry. He who has the Spirit of Christ in him will love those whom Christ loves so as to die for them. Injuries done to Christians are done to Christ, but most of all, the entangling them in guilt, that is wounding their consciences, is wounding him. We should be very tender of doing anything that may occasion stumbling to others, though it may be innocent in itself. And if we must not endanger other men's souls, how much should we take care not to destroy our own? Let Christians be aware of approaching the brink of evil, or the appearance of it, though many do this in public matters, for which perhaps they plead plausibly. Men cannot thus sin against their brethren without offending Christ and endangering their own souls. So there's a very strong message there about what we should be eating or not eating. Again, let it not be a focal point, but if it's causing someone to stumble or to sin, then we should not be doing it. Chapter 9. Here is a very much focused on Paul's own defense of his rights. So again, I'm just picking up some of the key verses in it. So from verse 1 to 15, Paul is defending his rights as an apostle. I too have a right to receive financial support, to eat, to be rewarded for what I do, just like other people do. Why should I be exempt from this? Why should I not be allowed to have companionship in a person that I call my partner in faith and in life? But the key thing here is that he chooses not to use those rights to avoid hindering the gospel. So Paul becomes all things to all people to save some people who need saving. So he compares a Christian life to a race, run to win, but with discipline. And if you want to pick up a key sort of set of verses in here, let's pick up verse 19. Verse 19 says, though I am free, I make myself a servant to all. So to an extent, I'm having to give up some of my freedom for the benefit of others. Because whilst I have a right to all these things, I have a right to use them, to gain them. I have a freedom like anyone else to benefit from them. At the same time, I know that whilst they're benefiting me, they may not be beneficial to everyone else. So, verse 27, I discipline my body and keep it under control, not to boast about myself, but to serve God and his people. And then chapter 10, here we are continuing again what Paul was building up when he was defending himself. But we're talking about the proper use of Christian freedom. So learn from the past. Don't repeat the mistakes of those who fell through pride, idolatry, and sin. And that list can go on and on and on. But stay alert to temptation. We are all prone to temptation. It is circulating us all the time. It might be in your workplace, in your home, in your community, with the people you love the most. Nevertheless, it is there. So trust that God will always provide a way out for you. And He has, and He offers that to us. Avoid compromising with sin, especially idolatry or anything that competes with God. We have a weakness in ourselves. We know it. Again, as I said last week, we know what we should be doing, but yet we do the opposite, or we do things that causes divisions rather than uniting us. In this case, we know that certain things, if we compromise with those things, they will put us in a dangerous position as far as our faith is concerned, and start competing with what God is doing for us. Now, God does not force us to do things, does not force us to have a relationship with Him, but He offers it to us in a loving way, and we have that choice. Sometimes things that aren't of God are so attractive, but knowing God, who He is, and letting Him guide your everyday steps will help you to know the differences. So avoid compromising with sin. It isn't going to do you any good. Use freedom wisely. Not everything is helpful. Not everything that is helpful to you is beneficial to others, as we saw that earlier with Paul in chapter 9. So live for God's glory in all you do, and aim to honor God and build others up. So what's the key verses or verse from chapter 10? Well, I'm going to pick up verse 13. It says, "No temptation has overtaken you except what is common to mankind. And God is faithful. He will not let you be tempted beyond what you can bear. But when you are tempted, He will also provide a way out so that you can endure it." God's faithfulness is helping believers resist temptation and live faithfully. And I'm just going to read this out. It's quite interesting when you look at this and you reread them freshly. So I'm going to read 1 Corinthians 10, verses 23 to 25, and then 27 to 33. It's quite interesting when you look at it. So come with me as I read this. "I have the right to do everything, you say, but not everything is beneficial. I have the right to do anything, but not everything is constructive. No one should seek their own good, but the good of others. Eat anything sold in the marketplace without raising questions of conscience. If an unbeliever invites you to a meal and you want to go, eat whatever is put before you without raising questions of conscience. But if someone says to you, 'This has been offered in sacrifice,' then do not eat it, both for the sake of the one who told you and for the sake of conscience." So this is very important because some people get confused. When they read earlier, they're being told, no, you can't eat this sort of foods. And then they say, but later on you say we can. This is the point of clarity. Eat what you're offered. But if someone says to you, we're doing this as a sacrifice, or something that is offered as a sacrifice to idols, then you should stop. That is when you stop doing that, when you stop eating those things, because they're going to interfere with you and your faith. "For why is my freedom being judged by another's conscience? Well, if I take part in a meal with thankfulness, why am I denounced because of something I thank God for? So whether you eat or drink, or whether you do it all for the glory of God. Do not cause anyone to stumble, whether Jews, Greeks, or the church of God, even as I try to please everyone in every way. For I am not seeking my own good, but the good of many, so that they may be saved. So, as I conclude, I just want to encourage you again to read these chapters 8 to 10. What we're reading here is real for us today. It has been there for generations. It still remains today. It is up to us to break the cycle, as I said last week when we were talking about divisions. If we know it, let's exercise it. So Paul teaches that Christian freedom is real, but should always be exercised in love, humility, and responsibility. There is great responsibility with this freedom that we have. So believers are urged to prioritize the spiritual well-being of others over personal rights and avoid actions that might lead others into sin. If we all do this, then you're being protected, I am being protected, because we are respecting one another, we're caring for one another, and we want the best for one another. We just need to do what we believe we are being asked to do. So questions of reflection as we close are these. Am I using my freedom in Christ in a way that builds up others? What personal rights might God be calling me to lay down for someone else's good? And how am I resisting temptation and staying spiritually disciplined? So think today. Think about your own personal life and think about some of the things that you have been taught to do or you do because you think they should be done, or you're told they should be getting done, or you don't do them because someone told you that you shouldn't be doing them. Or expectations, having rights to certain things. Think of those things and then ask yourself this question. Are those helping me get closer to God or not? And are they interfering with someone else's faith journey or causing them to sin or not? If the answer is no to both of those, then you are on the right journey, and keep doing that and encourage others as well. So next week we'll continue again looking at 1 Corinthians, and we'll go to the next bit that Paul was concerned about for the people in Corinth that he had left behind. Take care, pray with someone, read and read and read again, and ask God to clarify things that are not clear to you. But most of all, remember, all of this is about Christ. If anything is contrary to that, then we should be concerned about it. You should be concerned about it. Be blessed.